it is a wet Wednesday night in Maine, and I understand it's wet wherever you are, John DePietro.
It's wet, but it blew through, and we made it through. So it's gotten warm. So you know what? It's the fall in New England. It can be 70 one day. You could have the heater on one day. You could have the defroster on in the morning, and you could have the air conditioner on in the afternoon. So that's our weather.
But you can still go camping.
You can still go camping, and we're coming up on Columbus Day weekend, and it's a time of the year that many people kind of think this is it. I know there are others, like our friends, the Coles and Cavosas, that stretch it into Halloween time. I don't know. Can we still say Halloween if there's no Halloween this year? Or is it politically correct?
Who knows?
Who knows? I know certain cities have already called off Halloween, but
yep.
Nevertheless, I see Michelle is joining us in sunny Arizona while we're here in crazy New England with high wind warnings and possible tree damage and that type of thing to deal with. But hey, it's the fall. It's cool.
She's got an interesting journey. She's out in Arizona, but she's going to fly home, and then her and Laurie are going to take Emma and the truck and head out to Arizona on the roads. And on the way, they're actually going to stop down at Wharton RV Park in Georgia, who we had
talked to those guys.
And we had them on the show a couple of weeks ago, and Rolling on TV is going to do a segment on them while they're down visiting. So,
and if people are RVing this weekend, or if they're going cross country or wherever the case may be, and they're not familiar with where a friendly campground is located, they can always look for Harvest Host, where there are 1,000 different locations throughout the United States, whether it's wineries, whether it's breweries, whether it's golf courses, whether it's farms, whether it's tourist attractions, whatever. Harvest Host is a very unique situation. And here's the best part. If they put NERVDA in the code, they'll save 15%. So
what a deal. What a deal.
Sorry, our friends
we love Harvest Host. All right, let's take a roll call.
Too.
We got Jerry Plant on from Majors RV. Good evening. Waiting the weather on the Cape. Yep. Walter Swinton, good evening from Claremont, Florida. You're still down there. How long are you there, Walter?
But Bob, he can make it back in a day. So Walter's
if somebody calls him tonight, he'll be back tomorrow morning. And that's driving. That's not an airplane.
Walter's the only one I know that can drive 900 miles in one day.
Yep.
And, still live to talk about it.
Yeah.
So
Jim Convoy's on. Hello. No power in Attleboro. Scott Nichols is on from Marshfield. Riney's back with us again tonight. Great evening to all. And Kathy Wheeler, good evening. Super. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's drop off Harvest Host and bring up a young lady from Foxborough and see what the weather is like down there.
I'm not that young lady, by the way. There she is.
You are not. So I guess Marcia Galvin from Normandy Farms Family Camping Resort. Got that on. Welcome, Marcia.
That's only one of her hats that she's wearing. You can see. Marcia, do you have two hats there? You can go to your store and grab another hat.
I've got more hats than you could count.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how you can fit it all in the day, but you certainly do.
Now, since this is a nationally famous show, there are actually probably people in the country who are saying, "Who the hell's Marcia Galvin?" Even with the description that I wrote up for you, they're sitting there saying, "Who is she and why is she on?" So, benefit of those who don't know you, give us a little background.
Oh, good evening, gentlemen, and thank you for having me on the show. Yeah, I'm here at Normandy Farms Campground. I am the one of the 8th generation of Daniel's family that own and operate Normandy Farms Campground. And we're going to be celebrating 50 years of being a campground in 2021. We've been, the land has been in the family since 1759. So the hat I have on right now is of Normandy Farms, and that's where I spend most of my time.
Go ahead, John.
It should be, we don't have to say it, but you should say that you weren't one of the founding generations. You weren't there in 1759.
No, the water's really good in Foxborough, if that's the case.
Water's really good.
So in addition to all the other stuff they've got at Normandy Farms, they have a, what do they call it, Fountain of Life, or
Fountain of Youth.
Fountain of Youth.
Fountain of Youth.
Fountain of Youth, yeah, exactly.
Okay. Michelle says, Laurie and crazy weather in Douglas. Well, okay, Walter says we're here for another week and a half. Chris Andrew joined. Hey, Chris, glad to have you with us tonight. Are you done camping down there, Chris, in Rhode Island? We're up here till the end of October, but I might cut it short a week or so. I assume you still got some fall camping left down there. Michelle, Marcia, you look fantastic. That's from Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle.
And Don Hawes, hello from Athens, Texas. Oh, Don, you're out of the hospital and recovering from your surgery, so we're glad to see that you squeezed us in. Didn't you just get out of the hospital this morning?
It's either today or yesterday.
We've got some pretty dedicated fans out there. Well, Marcia, tell us about one of the other hats. Tell us about the RVing hat.
Well, I was fortunate enough to be on the RVic board of directors for 10 years, and then ended up being able to serve as chairman of the National Association of RV Parks and Campgrounds. And that was
was that right after you got out of high school?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was it was 2013, and yeah, I know. I felt like I was still, that young, but it was such a great experience. The National Association is just a great organization. But the fun part of that is that my father and I are the only second generation that have been served as chairman of the National Association. So he was chairman in the 1980s, and then, I came along 30 years later. So, fun fact.
Mark Polk has joined from RV Education 101. From North Carolina. Brad Moore has joined, but he only wants to recognize you. He says, Brad says, hi, Marcia. He apparently
doesn't care about us.
Maybe he can't see the other screens on the computer or something. Maybe something's blocked.
Well, they have distinction tonight that they've got two people from one dealership that are on with us.
Oh, yeah, we got Ryan and Brad.
Ryan's on, and Brad's on, and Brad says hello to Marcia. And Don and Pat just got out of he just got released from the hospital. He had shoulder surgery and then had some heart complications. He's still home, and you know what? He's either dedicated or the anesthesia hasn't worn off.
Yeah,
he's watching the show.
Right.
We want to thank
the pain will come tomorrow. Doug Turner from Indiana. Hello, Doug. Hello, everyone. We actually got to go camping. We finally found a campground that had an opening here in Indiana. Wow, they can't be closed that early, are they? They're getting really hard to find. Well,
I don't know.
The opening's getting hard to find.
Right.
Chris says, by the way, been to Normandy Farms a handful of times. Love that place. Well done, top-notch campground. Chris is with Hemlock Hill RV, if you don't know Chris and his brother Jason. And
Chris,
is
he the current or the incoming president of RVDA?
He is, yeah, he should probably have a cup of coffee with you, Marcia. He is going to be the incoming chair of RVDA once we get past the virtual convention in early November, and you could probably give him some good tips. But he's like RVic, he's had a long procession. He's had many years of volunteerism.
Actually, they're a campground. They started as a campground and ended up as a dealership.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Marcia, you could always say that the stuff that Pete's has out front is yours.
Yeah, some people wonder.
Opening up Normandy Farms RV.
But Bob, we've got a very distinctive situation here because we've got two people, two New Englanders. Actually, they're both in our audience tonight. Well, I don't know if Marcia's considered in the audience. I guess she would be audience as well as on stage. But that held two of the big three between RVIA and RVDA, top worldwide positions, not just regional, but worldwide positions. And you know what? It's an honor to be a New Englander amongst their presence because, you know what, folks, our audience that's here, we should have Chris back on when he's the president, because we had him on earlier when he was with Hemlock, but
Yep.
Wearing the Hemlock hat. But the thing that we've found, Bob Zagami, going to a camping association meeting is that a lot of campground people don't feel as though there's enough of a relationship between the dealers and the campground owners, let alone the campground owners and the manufacturers. There's probably no relationship.
Well, that's true, but I think we do a better job than most of them. Lasher and I are in constant communication along with the other states on that. The thing I'd want to add on to what you said is we are very fortunate to have people like Marcia and Chris and the people who have served at the national level, because number one, it's not easy running an RV dealership these days. I mean, Chris has taken over at we're already forecasting record sales next year of 517,000 RVs. And they've been killing themselves since May when we come out of this crisis and the RV sales went off the charts. And yet you people take, and we've done it too, but you take that time to volunteer and give back to the industry. And that's what makes it so strong in New England. So with that kind of a lead in and knowing the sales are out there, go back to February and March, early March, before
go to February.
Tell us what you thought your year was going to be like,
and then an hour later we'll ask you what it turned out to actually be like.
Yeah, gosh, the year was looking fantastic, especially with all the RV shows. Springfield was phenomenal. I came back from Springfield and we got our job fair going. And that was the beginning of March. We had over 100 interviews. It was on a Saturday afternoon. We hired or were going to offer 30 potential candidates a job. And then the bottom fell out. And we had no idea what to do. And as being the state exec, I forgot to mention that, my other hat is the president of the Massachusetts Association of Campground Owners. And of course, in a panic, everybody looks to their state association to figure out what's going on. And I tell you, it was a lot of long nights. My sister, the management team here, working on figuring out, what are we going to do? We're supposed to open April 1st. The governor shuts down the middle of March and we're not an essential business. And so we had to fight really hard to get the governor to turn campgrounds into an essential business, and we did. And so that at least opened the door for essential workers to come and stay in the campgrounds. But oh my gosh, it was just crazy trying to figure out everything, interpret everything.
It's totally different having essential workers at your campground than vacationers, because they're looking for a place to lay their head at night that's quiet, and they're not concerned with pools, they're not concerned with playgrounds, they're not concerned with campfires, they're concerned with, I got to get to work. And, so you really had a totally different clientele in there. Talk about that, and if that was an issue with how you, what they expected for services from you.
I think the COVID really turned people into to very caring people, because the folks that came that needed to stay with us for essential businesses, they were so grateful just to have a place to be able to park and get off the road. Nobody was expecting us to provide any of the services that we provided pre-COVID. They were just really needing a place to plug in, to get off the road, and to feel like they were safe. And that's what everybody was looking for. They were just looking for a place to be safe. And it really changed our whole business philosophy for 2020, because we went from providing a lot of entertainment, a lot of things for guests to do, to really just focusing on health and safety and making sure that the guests that come here feel comfortable. And I think, our business suffered for it a little bit this year, but only in occupancy, but not in goodwill.
Did the essential workers that we're referring to, were they short-termers or were they there for 3-4 weeks at a time?
They were here longer.
Or anything like that?
Yeah, they were nurses, traveling nurses. We had construction workers. and mostly the medical field. And they were here for a few weeks. They'd be here for, like they'd come in the beginning of April and stay until middle of June. And then they'd be gone. And, you know, we opened the laundry by appointment for them, and would clean it in between. And they were just very grateful. We just found everybody just to be very grateful. The guests that had reservations that were due to come, you know, for like April school vacation, because we're completely full during April school vacation, and we couldn't even open. And so all of the people that were due to come to us were getting refunds or putting their reservations over for the next year. So the office here, we were just flat out with calls, and everyone was like, what's going to happen? And I'd bring out my magic 8-ball and I'd be like, I don't know.
Marcia, what percentage of people said keep the money and we'll come next year versus give me the money back?
I'd say at the very beginning, it almost felt like It's a Wonderful Life. There was a run on the campground where everyone was kind of like worried about what was going to happen. So I'd say basically for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, we had a lot of refunds, and it was very, very touch and go. We had no idea what was going to happen at that point. We had to lay people off and all of that, and we were refunding deposits. But as it got a little bit further along, maybe a week or 2 or 3 into it, we would suggest that they roll it into the 2021, and most people would. A lot of them would even push it back to later on in 2020. But yeah, that's what most people would do.
Let me ask you this question.
Marcia, did you ever get to normalcy during the year, or did it just keep improving? But you're gonna go out the way you came in
with a blaze of glory.
Well, yeah, no normalcy at all. The Rec Lodge, we've got the 20,000 square foot building with the indoor pool, hasn't opened at all, and it won't open this year. The indoor pool didn't open. Swimming pools were 40%. You know, nothing was normal, but it was okay though.
Well, when we were down there for the what's the group?
Northeast Region Camping Charity.
In mid-September, again, we went knowing that the rec hall was open. So I got to tell you this funny story, Marcia, about that specifically, because you know, the kids love that rec hall. They love those rooms upstairs with the games and you know, the free games as well as the pinballs. But my granddaughter had $40 in quarters, which she was going to use. Okay, and she immediately left our camper and found her friend, you know, that she sees once a year down at Normandy, and they were going to the pinball. You know what I mean, the arcade, the game room. When they found out it was closed, they immediately, and these are kids that are 10 and 9 years old, went to the store and dropped $40 in quarters on stuff in your store. All of which, you know, probably lasted an hour. It was, you know, candy and marshmallows. They bought them. You had a setup for s'mores. But you got $40 of my granddaughter, actually my money.
Thank you.
In the store. So that was kind of
very appreciative. Michelle wanted to make sure we do a reminder that the custom Novo raffle on Rolling On TV is going to end soon. They are $5,000 short of their goal. I will post the raffle again on the website and in the notes. And I would show you a picture, but I'm having difficulty moving our images around tonight, so I want to be a little cautious so I don't blow up the show. That's why you're still seeing the Go RV logo, not a Normandy Farms thing. So if I don't change pictures, you'll know that the tray wasn't working down there, but we'll plug that. Michelle wants to know, how are the tiny homes doing? Donna Goldberg says hello, and see. What is it? Wallace Cove at 100%. Frank Cates is here, and Jose Moniz, the producer of Rolling On TV, has just joined us. Sorry for being late. Well, we'll take that off your paycheck next week, Mr. Moniz.
Kessler hasn't shown up yet, by the way. It should be noted. It's 20 minutes into the show.
It's only 20 past. He'll be here about 7:28.
Let me ask you to wear two hats at the same time now. Your Mako hat and your Normandy Farms hat. We have read everywhere, and not only did we read it, but we knew it and experienced it, the number of new campers this year, okay, that new RVers. Did you see a lot of newbies coming into the campground? And what do your members say?
Yeah, definitely a lot of newbies. We would have our occupancy arrival report on a Friday, and it would be 2/3 of them. It was a lot of education. We needed to educate the guests that didn't really know camping etiquette, on quiet hours, on cutting through campsites, and all the basics, because they didn't know. Being in COVID,
down while backing in? Anybody take any trees out while backing in?
No. Luckily.
That's a high percentage, but that's typical of what we're seeing with these new RVers out there. And every campground association is talking about it. Every forum's talking about it. And I know you want to be kind to everybody, but there's a different set of campers out there right now. They need we as an industry. So let's not put the blame on them. We should not be sending people out to the campgrounds that haven't been taught how to run their RVs, how to use the RV the right way, and get a little bit of camping etiquette. I know a lot of our dealers are actually handing out the camping etiquette poster for a lot of these campers. But
and Bob and I,
the question is how you deal with that staff-wise, because even your staff, because you got such a finely tuned engine down there that's been going on hundreds of years, and you open up in the spring, you have great people come in, everything goes fine, you close in the fall. All of a sudden this year, everything gets blown up in the spring. So how does the staff react to the changing camper, and what steps did you have to take to help educate them?
That's a really good question. And it was really hard in the beginning because we weren't able to get together and do any training. Everything had to be through Zoom. And so we lost that kind of touchy-feely family feel that we have here among our staff. We did a lot of cross-training this year. So we would have our work campers that would only typically be in one area. We're working in many different areas. Yeah. We paired back our team. So we had 92 was our top number this year for team members, and we were at 143 last year. Wow. But consequently as well, our payroll, was down, but our occupancy was down. So we were able to kind of tailor the whole swing, if you will, to kind of fit into what we needed it to. But I tell you that the team that we had this year was rock solid, that they were invested in the campground and invested in providing a safe and clean place for people to go and vacation. Everybody knew everyone was dealing with the same thing. The kids didn't have anything to do on the weekends, so they wanted to work. There was not any social life this year. So yeah. we had people that wanted to work, and
they couldn't work at the bowling alley. They couldn't work at the drive-in theater. So, hey, we've got Michelle Willette Silva on with us tonight.
She must be related to Scott.
She is related. She runs. She's at Cold Springs Camp Resort up in Ware, New Hampshire. One of our favorite nerve to dealers. We are wondering if you offered a discount to your camping rates this year on peak and off-peak, on transit and seasonal. Thank you. Thanks for joining us tonight, Michelle. So that's your question, Marcia.
Yeah, so that's a good question. We got that question a lot in the beginning of the season. Were we going to discount rates for the year? And we didn't. We didn't discount anything. Everything. We work on dynamic pricing anyway, so our rates will fluctuate based on occupancy. So other than our typical Good Sam, AARP, our EMT firefighters, those type of weekends, state weekends that we had, we didn't offer any additional discounts.
Okay.
And people were happy to get a place.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah,
they were happy to get a place because once the lid was off, it was let's go crazy. And we saw the same thing when we were talking to the people up at Bailey's, where a couple of staff members there had to say, look, at 11 o'clock at night, you can still keep the campfire on, but you can't have that stereo. blaring that you can hear it 4 campsites away. Did you ever have to call the police on any of the movies that thought it was Party City, Marcia?
Yeah, opening up was really nerve-wracking because you didn't know what you were going to get for guests coming in, whether they were going to be, all kinds of party, atmosphere, or if they were going to abide by our guidelines. And 4th of July weekend, it was a nightmare. We had a full park. We had a lot of guests that were new to camping, and there was a lot of alcohol involved. And we did have a group of guests that we needed to call the police. They ended up arresting 2 of the guests. But what we found this year, guys, which is really kind of disturbing, is that we've come across some racial interrogation on our part. So, we had a guest that I was able to, that I saw passing a pass to another guest to come into the campground. Described him as a gentleman with a green shirt and black pants. And we went out to talk to him. And as soon as I walked up to him, he said, "It's because of my color, isn't it, that you're, coming to talk to me?" And that happened a lot over the course of the season that we've not seen before in the industry, is that tension, among people. Usually campers are, chill, they're relaxed, they're, but we sensed some disturbing, just attitudes.
Activity.
Yeah.
Just uncomfortableness.
And it made our team uncomfortable. It was a different clientele. So that's just something that's been a little bit different this year.
Yep. Yeah, it's challenging on that end of it. Now, as you come to the end, are you closing again this year? Closing for the winter?
December 1st.
December 1st.
Mm-hmm.
So as you look to that, was there anything significant that indicates you'll have a major change in any of your policies next year based on this? Because my gut feeling is what we see this year may be worse next year. We should. This was not a COVID situation. This is just new RVers, new campers, people getting used to the lifestyle. So what would you change, if anything?
Well, not getting used to the lifestyle, Bob, but trying to change the lifestyle to their own lifestyle, which
Yeah.
the campground is really it's a community where you have to reel in your personal needs to fit, the community, right?
Right.
That's good.
Exactly.
Point. Yeah.
Did you,
And you have to
anything but a good point from me, Zagami, the way you say that? That's a good point. That's
Well,
a good point.
There aren't that many that you come up with. That one was actually pretty good, John.
Hold on. I let this one go too far. Ladies and gentlemen, when you watch this on replay, go back about 4 minutes. Zagami said, and they couldn't even work at the drive-in theater this summer. Now, folks, is he lost in the 60s? How many drive-in theaters are there for kids to work in? There's one in Wellfleet. There's one in Mendon. There's one in Maine.
A couple in Maine.
And that's about it.
Oh, okay.
Marcia, you didn't lose out to many kids that went to work for the drive-in theater instead of your place.
But you know what? The drive-in theater is making a comeback.
It is.
That's right.
It
They
is.
could have made a comeback on those shopping malls that are putting them in the parking lot. And they could have gone up there and said, "Hey, I've got experience in a drive-in theater." How many kids could go up to that people and say, "I've got experience in a drive-in theater"?
Yeah. As long as the parents didn't say, "I've got experience in a drive-in theater," that would mean something totally different.
All right. Gail Hogan says, "Good evening, Bob and John." Gail, there's 3 people on the screen. Gail's with the state director of Good Sam in Rhode Island. James Conboy says, "Bob,
Quiet your
quiet
dog.
your dogs." I know for some reason they're a little pesky there. I'm going to take them to another room if they keep it up, Jim.
Yeah.
Kathy Wheeler says, "We went to Normandy Farms for the first time this year, and despite COVID, we had a great time." See? That's good.
That's great.
Yeah.
So let me ask you
Yeah.
a question, Marcia. Do you serve Chef Boyardee in your cafe down there?
No, in the store.
Huh?
Is it
Camper's Kitchen.
available in the store where you're in right now, Marcia?
Is what?
Are there any, you're in the store right now. I will give you the opportunity, if you do have it, to go to you look for your little food section and see if there's any canned Chef Boyardee or Franco-American products.
We don't want to see that. She's going to call somebody in the store.
Do you want me to go look?
No. I thought you would know all the inventory because you're a 7th generation person.
No, no, I don't know everything. There probably is, though. There probably is.
Okay, because people.
Gail says, pardon me, good evening, Marcia. Thank you, Gail. Gary Plant says he's been out a lot this year. He says he's on the forums where people are straight out inconsiderate about their neighbors. Outside lights, outside TVs, etc. So that kind of goes along with what we said. But you did have on one of the calls I sat in on with your board, there were other campgrounds that had issues this year. It certainly wasn't, and I think that was nationwide. It was really a transition point for the industry. And it's not all bad because, if anything, I'm kind of glad that it happened this year because as we came out of this, we started to sell more RVs and we get new customers. But as I've said continually and probably say it every week on this show, it's a great opportunity for RV dealers and campgrounds. It's also a potential disaster for RV dealers and campgrounds if we do not really give them a higher level of service, support, instruction, education, both at the dealer level, through the association levels, and right down to the individual campground. So over the winter, I would think that all of us, our dealers certainly, and your campgrounds and the other New England states, are going to have some serious discussions because I think this is a permanent situation. We have to lessen it by making sure we educate the people better. Am I off base?
No. And in fact, recently, just in the last 2 weeks, I worked with Go RVing. And Matt Light from the New England Patriots, he came to the campground with his RV. He's an avid camper. Yep. And he put together a video for basics for beginners on pulling into the campsite, how to set up your electric, your cable, your water, all that. And our Go RVing is going to be putting together a toolkit for campers to be able to download.
Yeah.
But the real question.
That touches on the procedural stuff, which is certainly important about how to hook up and et cetera. But, I think what Bob is referring to is the hospitality aspect of it. And Bob, I think it's interesting we have Marcia on because they're probably recognized as one of the top 10 in the entire United States, just not New England. But I think when Marcia wears her Mako hat, we need to raise the level of the hospitality level in next year and coming years as well. Who knows how many years we're going to be impacted by this, but we need to keep the people that were first timers. We don't want to see come January tons of RVs for sale because people didn't like camping.
Well, let me jump over to something, and I put it down the tray thinking that we wouldn't use it tonight, but this week KOA issued an update to the North American Camping Report, and it's post-COVID. And if you remember, Marcia, going back in April and March, when the COVID hit, they were ready to release the 2020 report, and they pulled it out of print because they wanted to update it based on COVID. So they come out with a special report, and now they've updated it with another 10-page report on the growth of camping amid COVID-19. And one of the charts that do I have it there? Yeah, let me just do this. That they had is, and you may not be able to read it, but it's the retention of the new buyers. So they went to the new buyers and the new campers, and how likely are they to continue camping in 2021? Now, this is a much smaller sample than the big report, but 10 campers are about 23%, cabins, deluxe cabins, 22%, RVing, 19%, rustic cabin camping, 17%, and glamping, 12%. I haven't talked to Scott Barr, who does the market research for the report, but that sounds low to me. I would hope that some of these people that got into it this year, more than 25%, would be joining us next year. And that goes into that whole education aspect. But I do want to jump. Mascot Sam says, hi, guys. Hello, Marcia. Nice to see you all. Frank Head says, even Kowloon Polynesian restaurant, Saugus, runs an outdoor open-air theater in their parking lot. I read that they were doing that, Frank. But I want to jump back to Matt Light for a minute. Did he bring you?
Let me bring one point up there.
Wait a minute. Did he bring you a sample of his vodka?
No.
Did you know he owns a vodka company?
Yes, I got to spend a day with him. It was wonderful to hear all the things he's involved in.
He's a great guy, and there's another guy that gives back a lot. And yeah, I knew that they were shooting the video down there.
So one of the important points that I pulled out of that camping report is that of the new campers, of the brand new people that were new first-time camping this year, the glamping aspect of it was the most highly recognized. That was the part that excited them the most. That's what they want more of. And you guys are jumping into that, right?
Yeah, we're actually, in fact, Michelle brought up the tiny houses, and we had to kind of reevaluate that whole scenario for next year. We're not going to go with the tiny houses, and we're going to put in 2 new cabins because they're going to be more popular, we believe. But even this week, we're up 50% in rentals in September right now, for September, which is crazy. The rentals really have been off the chart. So it's been good. And in fact, I did a survey of the Massachusetts campgrounds to ask them if they, how they thought their season was. And their choices were, crazy busy, fantastic, all the way down to like terrible. And 60% of the campgrounds said it was like the best year. They had a very, very good year. And then about 25% said it was busy with issues. So, there was a good vibe.
Talking about that camping thing, and they mentioned interest in glamping remains robust among both campers and prospective campers. Gen X, 45%, millennials, 42%. Campers are the most interested in glamping experience. That's interesting because that's a younger population. You would think maybe the glampers would be the old. They want the luxury, they want the old stuff. No, these kids are coming out the gate, and they're paying a lot of money to go glamping and to glamping resorts, and campgrounds, hopefully are accommodating some of those people like you are with your tents down there.
Definitely, and that's going to just bring more new campers. If they can't stay in the rental, they're going to look for their own RV, and then they're going to come back that way. So it's a win-win for everybody, I believe.
Yeah.
And you're getting. We had one guest come in last night with no reservation. Drove in a Tesla. His girlfriend had on high heels, was all dolled up, and he pulled up to the gate and he wanted a motorhome. He thought he would be able to come to the campground and just pick a motorhome and go stay in it. And my daughter was at the gate. She told him, no, that's not how it works. But he did take a safari tent. So they stayed in the safari tent. Found out this morning, they came down to the office and he proposed to his girlfriend. So they got engaged there last night. So, you never know what's going to happen.
That's a hell of a commercial. It's a great commercial for next year, Marcia.
But Marcia, you brought up a very, very important word that Bob is going to tease. Bob, you can tease that word, that T word.
The Tesla.
That just for a second.
Yeah. There is something coming from Tesla, and it probably didn't cross a lot of consumer sites or chatter, but there is discussion. We're trying to chase them down for the show, but there's a company that wants to take the Tesla semi-trailer truck cab and build it into a motorhome, an all-electric Tesla motorhome. And I've seen sketches. I've seen pictures of the prototypes, so I'm trying to chase down the company to get their flavor. But it does dovetail into exactly what she said, John, because these people that, these young people, this younger generation is spending a lot of money. And maybe it's mom and dad's money, but who cares? They're spending a lot of money. But Tesla has recognized this and has made a vehicle that is getting the interest of companies. And the company that's doing it, that's doing the retrofit right now for the prototype, is not in the RV business. If I told you the name, you wouldn't know it. It's not in the RV business. So somebody at Tesla and some other manufacturer has looked at this industry, which they can't help not look at it because of all the publicity that we're getting. And somebody said, that truck thing that we've got, what if that's on the front of a motorhome? And somebody said, hey, I could build something like that and put beds in the bathroom. And they had a cab over bed, they had a sleep sofa, they had a big bed out back, kitchen and bathroom. But so we could possibly see a Tesla motorhome within 5 years, maybe less.
But the interesting part, now people don't realize Tesla is not a vehicle manufacturing company. It is a solar company.
It's a battery company, right?
They even make shingles for roofs and that type of thing. But I would suggest that because I wouldn't suggest going to Normandy Farms with a solar product because it is so heavily wooded, and that's the feature that people love about it. The giant trees in the shade, that they'd probably run out of batteries unless Marcia, you put them in the back somewhere by the dog park.
Jerry brings up a good point, and we should talk about it because it's topical. There's a lot of talk about this, but Auto Camp has just opened up in
They're open now,
a campground down on the Cape, and you can go down there next summer and rent an Airstream trailer, luxury Airstream trailer. They customize them for Auto Camp. They got 3 camps, 2 of them in California. One is the first one on the East Coast. In July and August, it will cost you over $400, $409 to be exact, to make a reservation in an Airstream. Did you ever think, Marcia, that we would see anybody in any campground with any product getting $409 a night?
Oh my gosh, no, absolutely not. And they're going to get it because it's fantastic. When the campground first started at Normandy Farms, my grandparents were avid Airstreamers. They owned an Airstream. They had it parked on the site over here, and that's how they started off. So Airstream's been along here for a long time.
Do they still have it? Do you have it in the museum?
No, we don't have. No.
We don't have a Normandy. We don't have a Normandy Farms museum.
No, not really. We get a little bit going, but.
Well, but those are people, like I say, if somebody pays $409 a night and camps and they like it, they're going to go buy an Airstream.
Yeah.
That's great marketing for Airstream. They made a great deal with Auto Camp, and that's the product of choice. That's great marketing, and they're building new customers for the years ahead.
Speaking of marketing in the years ahead and future viewers, I need to do something now that I should have done 23 minutes ago, and that is to say thank you so much for joining us here on the live show. But for those of you that are watching on the replay, hit the like button, hit the share and all this other stuff, and share it with others, etc. And especially for those of you that are watching it on YouTube, because now we're available in 7 different flavors. We're available on Facebook and YouTube, etc., and a podcast as well. If you're watching on YouTube, down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, there's a little word that says subscribe. It's in red. It's right underneath the square that you're watching on the monitor. Down below, it says subscribe. Hit subscribe, and then every week you'll get a new one of these sent to you automatically. You won't have to go searching for it. So if you're watching it live, then hit share with somebody, not Sunny, but share. And also, if you're watching it on YouTube, hit subscribe. And that way there, more and more people get to see the show. And you know what? I don't care if it's self-serving, but we're very fortunate to have people like Marcia who are leaders in the industry. When we get people like Mike Happy, the CEO of Winnebago, and top people in the industry, these are people that we want to hear from. But more importantly, they say to us, "We're so happy that we got to hear from your audience." So our audience is equally important here as our guests, and our guests always say that they learn so much from the audience. So thank you, audience.
Well said, John. So Marcia, this is one of your playgrounds, and we see a lot of young couples coming into the industry.
I know exactly where that is.
Young families and stuff. Do you see a change in the attitude or the behavior of the children? In many cases, they parrot the parents and stuff. But was it an issue this year with children in the campground, especially with the COVID restrictions and number of people and how they treated your staff?
You know what? It wasn't. It was not an issue at all. In fact, I think it took a turn for the better this year. In years past, we've seen kids become more entitled and more disrespectful. And this year, it seems like parents really embraced their families more, and the kids, were more respectful. So I saw it a good thing this year.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I think you hit on one of the reasons. Number one, they're spending more time at home with homeschooling and being out of school. Every family is, including the parents. So what we see
And grandparents.
And grandparents. Yeah. I have duty 2 days a week. Yeah, I have duty with Bobby 2 days a week. Yeah. But we see the use of technology that companies were reluctant to use before. And whether it's campgrounds or RV companies or Dell Technologies, they have found out that people working at home really isn't as bad as they thought it was. In many cases, it's much better. They're more productive. So we're going to see more of that. And in fact, many of the park model manufacturers, many of the RV manufacturers are building in workspace. Not, oh yeah, take your computer over to the kitchen counter. They're building in separate rooms that are built out as an office. Because if you get to homeschooling, you can homeschool anywhere in this country. The teacher doesn't care as long as you show up for the Zoom.
Well, one interesting thing that about the homeschool thing, I forget what it was. I totally lost my train of thought. But go ahead, I'll remember it.
What I was going to say about the homeschooling is we've seen a lot more parents with children here during the week and more demand for Wi-Fi. So we upped our bandwidth just to be able to provide more Wi-Fi because they're working from here as well as, going to school. So you're going to see that more in campgrounds.
This summer up in, where were we, in Maine or Vermont or New Hampshire, somewhere up north, we encountered at least 3 or 4 families from the West Coast that just said, you know what, let's go. And, when you talk about the bandwidth, I'm sure that there are many people that stay with you that work during the day from their RV. And we're finding that more and more. People want that freedom. And I think if anything that COVID has done from a positive perspective is let people realize that they don't have to be locked into that corporate desk. They don't have to. I mean, when you look at, you can get through Boston in 10 minutes now instead of, 2 hours, from that perspective. So there are parents that are hitting the road with their young kids and giving them the school during the day, but also taking them, like the couple that we ran into were from San Diego, and they brought their kids to Lubec, Maine, the easternmost point in the United States. And then they were coming down into, they wanted to go to Gloucester, Rockport and Gloucester, and then Old North Church and Freedom Trail. But they're showing them history as opposed to just reading about it in the boring textbooks, which are outdated before.
Yep. Michelle Fontaine brings up a good point. Toy haulers have that amazing space to morph into anything, office or a classroom. And we've heard a lot from our dealers that many of the families are doing just that. They're buying toy haulers, not because they have toys, they're buying them because they have kids. And they want the playroom and they want the classroom and everything out on the back. And it's a great opportunity. And I hope our dealers take advantage of it in their advertising. And
Marcia, what questions would you like to ask of our audience, if you want to ask anything from them, because they're not shy and they'll tell you. But Walter Swenson brings up an interesting point. Walter works for formerly EMC, and now he's with Dell, but he always brings his own bandwidth. But what question might you have, if any, of our audience that would help you run your place better?
I would like to know if anyone has any ideas of what they think is going to be the next new thing. What is it that they're looking for in a campground? What is it that they're going to look for next? That's kind of what we're looking at. Is what's next down the line? What we're gonna do next.
And while people are writing those questions down, I want to ask you a question that we asked just last week for another show. Our friends up at Bailey's up in Maine, and I know that two families that know each other for a long time. They're 50 years, and you'll be 50 next year. What about making reservations now for next year? How important is that, Marcia?
That's a good point. I mean, we take reservations 18 months in advance, so we are already booked for next Memorial Day, the holidays, Halloween's. But especially with new campers coming in and additional RVers, the campgrounds are going to get filled up. So if you have your favorite campsite and the time of year that you want to go, we're suggesting book early, because there's going to be more campers, I think, than there is going to be campsites for next season.
That's a good point. I want to get to Jim and Jerry, who both, Jerry asked the first question, and he's sharp. He gets into this stuff, and I think he's got an excellent point. He'd like to see concierge services for dumping the black tank. Do any of the campgrounds still have honey wagons? And if you don't know what a honey wagon is, I'm not going to explain it to you tonight. Google it.
It's got nothing to do with honey, folks. I'll tell you that.
Right. But do campgrounds still offer that service?
Yeah, we in fact do, and it would not be, any campground owner would know this. It would not be a conversation about talking about camping if you don't bring up septic. It's just a thing.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, we do offer the service, but you know what? I think it depends on what the campground has to offer for services as far as hookups. So the more full hookups that a campground has, they don't need that service. So,
but understanding, if somebody's willing to pay $409 a night or $150 a night, they're probably willing to not even if they're a full, not if they're on a full hookup, but if they're on a site, they don't want to unhook and go 2 rows over to the dump station. They're probably perfectly willing to have somebody come out and empty the holding tanks.
They do. Oh, I know we do. And I do know parks in Massachusetts that do offer that service.
Yeah. So Jerry, do you want them to wear black tuxes and white gloves just so it justifies the increased price? Jim says, what does Marcia think will happen in 2021, and how is her campground preparing?
We're preparing for pretty much status quo for next year. I think it's going to be, our improvements are more utility-based improvements rather than amenity-based improvements. I think we're just kind of looking at what, kind of keeping a status quo until this whole thing is over, or at least we're managing it.
Interesting.
I don't know. I got my magic 8 ball. That's exactly what I need.
Oh, yeah.
Them. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. We only got 5 minutes left. This time flies by with Marcia, because you know what? With all the different hats she wears, there's enough questions that people can deal with her. There's enough areas that people can talk about. Now, Jerry asked, on-site tech to assist with issues. Newbies really need that. I know the national campground companies are not allowed to enter your unit because of insurance purposes. Has that been brought up in RVic or MACO about providing assistant, huh?
What are you talking about?
People, something in their house, something in their RV doesn't work, and they're a newbie. They have no idea how to fix it.
No, campgrounds have technicians and people.
Yeah,
They have mobile technicians, number one, right? But
they're not on site.
Yeah, Oak. What is it in Connecticut? Oak Park. She used to run Connecticut Campground. Sandy.
Oh, way up in Brown.
Oh, no.
Oaks. They have a service department.
Yeah, they do.
The manager, and now they got 2 technicians. They got 3 technicians. They're bigger than some. Huh?
Cooper is Peter's son.
Right.
So, and he's certified for.
Yeah. He runs it, and it's very profitable too. Yes. I've said that. We gave I gave a talk on that at one of the. I forget where I gave that talk, but that's something that they can certainly do on that end. I thought when you said that, Jerry, I thought you might mean computer technicians, because when you
maybe I don't think so.
Drop it back to Marcia. When a person has a problem, do you send it to your service provider of your infrastructure?
Right. So we have, if a guest can't hook up to the internet and has trouble, we have a sheet that we can walk them through. If we can't troubleshoot it for them, we have an 800 number that they can call our provider, and they can actually dial right into their computer and see how they can hook up. So we have a good customer service base for that.
Marcia, next year, just call Walter, because Walter can make it from Millbury to Foxborough in about 8 minutes, because he makes it from Millbury to Florida in about 20 hours worth of driving. So down 495, Walter, you're there in a minute. Walter will work on a as needed basis.
Well, seeing that he broke the land speed record in getting down there for this particular vacation, and knowing how competitive he is, do you think he's going to try to break it again on the way back? What are the odds? What are the odds on that?
Let me tell you, there's not much excitement when you're driving back. The excitement is when you're going on vacation.
So he may want to get back faster, right?
Well, I don't know. Regular seminar might be a good idea for next year or two as the number of newbies is high. Well, you know what? That's a good point. And I'm sure Walter would be qualified to do that. We might have thought of something here that is, even, of course, where are you going to hold the seminar? That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we get back to normal distancing. I'll ask Marcia a question. What would you think of maybe on a Wednesday night hosting an RV in New England live from your lodge and inviting your guests to come up and meet us and get autographs and get their picture taken with John and Bob? Am I going too far, John? Is that stretching the expectations a little bit too far?
It's stretching the expectations that they would want to meet you, when in fact they would only want to meet me, the younger, more attractive member of this combination here.
I see.
Let's
see what Michelle Fontaine. Go ahead. What's that?
We would adore to have both of you. We can make it a whole big event.
Right. Yeah. RVing in New England Day with John and Bob. Yeah.
There you go.
I'm sure I can get a couple of our dealers to put a couple of displays down there, like they do for the Northeast Regional Charities. And I thought I saw something from somebody. John, see if you see a date. Somebody posted. I think Gail may have posted it.
Fontaine says, okay, well, I have to put my boots on.
Yeah.
Gail? I don't see any.
So. Let me read this one. Michelle Fontaine says, your place is awesome, Marcia, but I have to question. Our dogs aren't too social with other dogs, so we love to find dog pens with no other dogs in them so they can run a bit. Yours is large and works for dog mixes, but not for ours. Maybe you'd like to camp at Walmart, Michelle, and they could run all over the Walmart parking lot.
For one night until they got run over.
You got a little pen down there.
What time it is?
All right. Walter says, Good Sam is at camp at Normandy Farms, the Northeast Region Camping Charity event Rally Weekend, September 17 to 19, 2021. And just call Lisa at Normandy Farms. You can start booking now, and that's always a fun time. And that one, John, is on site. Now, knowing that you're going to be on site this year, John, the attendance was down about 50%. So maybe we'll have to send the A-team next year.
Yeah, I'll go to Maine.
Yeah. My wife,
the thing I love going to Normandy is it's 47 miles door to door with no red light.
All right, we are past 8
I come out of my place, I can go no red lights all the way down 495. But it's after 8 o'clock. You know that.
And we try to be conscious of the time.
Marcia's going to want time and a half in a minute here. She's going to want time and a half. Besides, Marcia, are you locked in that place all by yourself?
Yes, I am. It's closed. All by myself.
You're locked in a store.
I am.
By yourself with Chef Boyardee and marshmallow.
I'm not 14.
What more could a person ask for?
But she stayed just for us tonight, John.
You have a big week.
Thank you very much.
Busy weekend coming up?
Oh, yeah. It's Indigenous weekend. It's packed.
Oh, Indigenous.
Oh. Now, do you have any teepees to rent?
Do we have any what?
Do you have any teepees to rent? Yeah, some campgrounds have teepees, right?
Teepees, I know they do. Yeah.
They're covered wagons. Some have covered wagons. Yeah.
They do.
It's just about everything else.
Bob, we're bordering on political incorrectness here.
We're going to stop while we're ahead. All right, Marcia, thank you very much. One thing we do ask of our guests if tonight or tomorrow morning, sometime tomorrow, go back through the comments in case, because they were coming fast and furious, in case we missed some that you'd like to address for Normandy Farms, or if they got a question that's right up your alley, feel free to do that.
Well, thank you.
Any closing statement, John, before we let Marcia
No, just tell Marcia to be careful walking out of there because I'm getting updates from Eversource. A lot of trees down.
No.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have to go far.
I don't have to go far.
No.
Right.
I'll be
You're
fine.
walking back home?
No, I'm not walking. It's
Okay.
dark out.
Any closing comments, Marcia? We appreciate having you.
Yeah, I so much appreciate the two of you and your audience for having me today. And it's just, this industry is just the best industry to be in. You know, I grew up in it, I work in it. My friends are all part of it. And, it's just the best place to be. And it doesn't matter if it's, a bad year this year or a good year. It's the people that make it. And, and it'll continue to be that way. So.
That's right. Good point. It's the people that make us happy. All right, guys, be safe, travel down the road, and we'll see all you folks next week. Good night now.
Have a great day, everybody.